Well, it's certainly taken its time, but Telstra has finally launched a rebooted version of the global roaming data packs. Whether they offer quite the same value as the deals recently announced by Optus and Vodafone is probably up for debate. For a roundup, though, we're joined by David Flynn from Australian Business Traveller. David, good to have you in the studio today. Nice to see you again. We've got to talk about the Dreamliner coming up with you as well. But,
lots to say there.
This Telstra global roaming rort is something we've, well, the global roaming rort broadly. What's Telstra's answer to it?
Every carrier's been rorting. Optus and Vodafone have dropped their data roaming fees. Telstra has finally caught up, and as of this week, as of today, in fact, they've slashed their fees as well for buying data roaming packs. So before you travel overseas, you can buy a chunk of data, you know, a couple of 100 megabytes, and you can use that when you're travelling.
I'm looking at some of the details. $29 for 100 megabytes, and that's kind of 5 times what you get previously.
What you got previously.
$85, 300 megabytes.
Right up to about $350 for, what's the top plan there?
I think I've got 1.5 gigabytes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So if you're going to be going overseas using a lot of data, put down $350. Yeah, it's a lot, and I've got to say it's actually still not great value. It's better than it used to be. But if you look at Optus and Vodafone, well, Optus doesn't have quite the same plan system, but the Vodafone deal is certainly better value. You know, with Vodafone, you get $85 for 5 gigabytes, so that's a quarter of the price for about 3 times the data. You know, you have to pay $5 per day to use it overseas, but you've got a lot more data under your belt, and the last thing you want to do is run out of data overseas and suddenly be back in the roaming field again.
So has it still got brand problems that people would decide to use Telstra over Vodafone, and that's comparable in terms of the pricing?
Well, it isn't. The trick is Vodafone's got these alliance deals. I mean, they've got their own network in a lot of countries in Europe and in New Zealand, which they can use, whereas Telstra doesn't have that international network at all. So it's been able to drop its fees also for casual roaming, but still, you know, not as competitive as Optus, certainly not as competitive as Vodafone.
So basically, if you're a irregular traveller overseas and you're with Telstra, it makes sense, but if you're travelling more regularly, you're probably going to be looking into it a bit more closely, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah. You know, Optus has divvied the world up into 2 zones and special data packs you can use. Vodafone, you can have your local plan in Australia with all of its call value and data value, and then if you travel to New Zealand, US, UK and Europe, $5 a day lets you use that value overseas. So, you know, the more or less you're travelling, the more you want to look at your carrier and think, which is the best deal for me? You know, what you get in Australia is quite different to the deal you get overseas. Yeah,
well, that certainly illustrates it, doesn't it? Yeah. Some of those pricings. What about the story with calls and texts? Because we've mostly spoken about data.
Yeah.
How's everyone stacking up on that front?
Well, no change for Telstra in calls and texts. Optus, under this streamlining of the global system they've got, you pay between $1 and $2 a minute for voice, 50 cents and $1 per text. Again, with Vodafone, what they've done is all the text is free and the voice calls are free within the country you're in and back to Australia. So again, if you're a business traveller, you want to analyse your travel habits, where you go to, how often you stay, what your typical usage is, and then help that guide you to the right one of these deals. But there's always the other option of buying a SIM card when you land in that country, popping that in. Disadvantage is you don't have your Aussie number on hand, so people ringing you will have to leave voicemails and you've got to call and retrieve them, so that's a lot of hassle.
All right, well, here is a story we've all been waiting for. I'm literally talking about 5 years of waiting. Jetstar's first Boeing 787 Dreamliner.
Australia's first Boeing 787 Dreamliner.
Australia's first 787 Dreamliner touched down in Melbourne following the flight from Seattle on Wednesday. Much hyped aircraft. First of 14 Dreamliners destined for the Jetstar International Fleet. They'll each carry 335 passengers, including 21 in the business class cabin.
It's a game-changing aircraft that's going to change the way we service our passengers. It's going to allow Jetstar to offer great customer service on top of what they already offer today, and at even lower airfares.
Jetstar announced flights from Melbourne to the Gold Coast and Cairns will soon be on sale for travel in November. David Flynn was on that inaugural flight from the US and joins us still to talk all about it. So, did it live up to the hype?
Yes, in a word, yes. Really? There's been so much hype over all the years. Well, no, it really does redefine the travelling experience for the passenger. You know, I flew from Seattle to Melbourne via Honolulu. That was about 18 hours in the air. At the end of the trip, I walked off that plane feeling better than I have on any other flight that I've taken to date. You really feel so much better. It's not just a
self-fulfilling prophecy because they're telling you you're going to feel better. You walk off saying, oh, yeah, I feel better.
I feel better.
No?
You do, though, because usually I'm on a plane, for example, I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm using little eye drops to keep my eyes moist. It's a real problem if you've got contact lenses. And also I moisturise my skin a bit during the flight. Didn't feel the need to do any of that. There's more humidity in the air, twice as much humidity as a regular aircraft. The cabin pressure is lower, and also the air just feels fresher. It doesn't get that stale feeling. It is an amazing experience. You read all the hype, but until you fly in the 787, especially a long trip like that, you don't realise what a game changer it is for the passenger experience.
It seemed to be a bit of hype as well about the oversized windows.
Yeah,
Again,
they are great.
What's so special?
Well, they are about yay big. Now, normally you can't make them that big because the airline's made out of metal, the planes are made out of metal, but the carbon fibre composite body of the Boeing 787 lets them have larger windows, and that lets a lot more light in. They've also got electronic dimming, so instead of a window shade that you pull down, or your seatmate pushes up and suddenly it's like, oh, in the eyes, you can press this button which sets about 1 of 6 degrees of dimness the cabin. And so you're flying along early in the morning, the flight attendants can actually dim all of the windows. You've got a little bit of play within it, but that just makes the cabin so much of a nicer area to sit in and relax.
Absolutely. What about the space? Is it bigger, more comfortable? What did you feel?
In terms of general space, yes, the ceiling is higher, the luggage bins have been recessed a little bit more. You just feel like you're less of a sardine in a big flying tin can. The luggage carriers are bigger
as well. All of these benefits.
all the way through. Yeah, the luggage bins are bigger. They carry more, take more carry-on. We're always trying to fit more carry-on these days. In terms of leg room, not much difference to the Airbus A330s that Jetstar currently flies. So business class is a bit more like a premium economy. Economy, bit of a tight fit. You know. But there is a little bit more knee room because they've adopted these very slimline seats, so there's a bit more space there. So on the whole, it's a bit of an incremental improvement in terms of that degree of passenger comfort for legroom. Everything else is outstanding.
All this hype that we've heard, it seems like we've left all the technical fault concerns behind.
Yeah.
Just because we're focused on the extra comfiness of these windows, or do you think that really is behind them now?
I think the majority of that's behind them. I mean, the 787 has had a lot of dramas. We saw that worldwide grounding for 12 weeks beginning of the year. Most of that is behind them. There are still some niggling technical issues that are going to crop up, just as there were for the Boeing 777 and the Airbus A380. Those will be addressed by Boeing. I certainly had no qualms at all. I got on a flight from Seattle to Melbourne, 13,000 kilometres, mostly over water. I didn't have a worry.
All right, perfect. And just so people know, the new plane flies domestically for a couple of weeks, then going into international service to Hawaii, Phuket, Bali, Japan.
First route will be to Bali from the middle of December, and then 2 more Jetstar 787s come on the end of the year. They'll start flying next year. We'll see what routes they announce then.
So just in time for the Christmas
Just in time for holiday.
Which is quite nice. David, you're also in LA recently, and the Star Alliance unveiling of the new business and first class lounges happened. So,
what do you make of those? That was really good. I mean, what I loved about that is it's got an outdoor terrace. Actually opens out to the tarmac operational area, which is lovely. They've got little fire pits.
So after you come off the plane all fresh, you can go and suck in all the LA fumes.
But it is nice to get out of the lounge experience. And over night time, it's lovely because you've got these fire pits, which is a bit of warmth and ambience. There's also an indoor bar area, like a terrace that opens into the terminal area. The decor has got a very contemporary, new, LA vibe to it. They've taken inspiration from the 50s and 60s, so there's a little bit of Mad Men in there, not so much Brady Bunch, thankfully, but it looks good. They've set aside spaces for reading, for relaxing. They've got actually a reading room you can close off if you want peace and quiet. So very smart.
Yeah, actually, we just saw some of the pictures of that outdoor area. It looks like just another bar, I suppose, outside.
It does, yeah, but you can hop on your plane.
So how big is it? I mean, how many people can
About 600 people in there, and that includes the first class area. If you're flying business or first with any Star Alliance airlines that fly out of Tom Bradley, but even if you're not in the pointy end, if you've got a gold card or gold status with any Star Alliance frequent flyer member like Singapore Airlines, that'll get you into the lounge as well.
Fantastic. Now, some other lounge news. Cathay Pacific set the opening date for the new lounge in Hong Kong.
They can't build enough lounges in Hong Kong. This is their 6th lounge the Cathay is opening. It's the Bridge. It will open on Monday, October the 28th. It's going to be a very large lounge, but with some cool features of its own, such as a bakery. So you walk in and they're going to be baking their own bread
Fresh
and
bread.
pastries. What a great smell to
stuff.
start the trip with.
Excellent. And we're seeing on screen also these new amenity kits for business class travellers.
Yeah, those
Why
are being
about those? What's so
are being
special?
rolled out this month. The hype for us is Yay Team. Those use the Jurleek products from Australia.
Ah, go
Yeah,
Australia.
nice
Very
to see.
good. All right, so that's the new amenity kit, so you've seen some pictures of those. Also, going on to Virgin, I think, as well, because we've seen Virgin Australia taking the concept of high tea to a whole new level. Passengers aboard flight VA555 from Sydney to Perth enjoyed 40,000 feet high tea. High tea, especially created by the celebrity chef Luke Mangan. How nice. Surprise treat today to celebrate Mangan's 3-year anniversary as the airline's head chef and to mark the arrival of Virgin's latest Airbus A330. The new Airbuses will operate on all weekday services from Sydney and Melbourne to Perth and 2 out of 3 weekday services from Brisbane to Perth. Mangan gave his personal touch to the beloved high tea tradition, serving passengers more than 300 scones with jam and 580 ribbon sandwiches. And the white gloves